Welcome back, folks. Today we're gonna be checking out Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, because over the past 7 days I had the opportunity to review the game, and because, well, this is a new title by Machine Games and it's also a new indie game, I was really interested to see how this is going to pan out, especially because this time they went for first person. Now, the first time I heard that this is going to be a first person game, it kind of piqued my interest, because sometimes when it comes to these games, especially an indie title, it can really be a make it or break it moment, because if your first person experience is not good or it's not fully utilized, well, it's going to make the whole game feel kinda bland. But luckily for this game, first person is actually really nice, and this was one of my biggest fears. But when it comes to just animations of you walking, running, climbing on certain obstacles or just fighting in general, I kinda thought it was smooth. Now, of course, there were some glitches which I'm going to talk about in the later part of this video, but honestly, when it comes to first person, it was incredibly smooth experience. Now, of course, do keep in mind when you go and climb certain obstacles, game does switch into a third person perspective, where in some titles, if you just put like a mix of first person and third person perspective, it can kinda take away from the experience. But honestly, over time, I kinda got used to it and it wasn't a big deal, because, well, the animation or, well, transition between first person and third person animation was smooth. Of course, I do understand why they did it, especially when it comes to textures on the screen, because every single time you're climbing something in first person, that means you're gonna be getting really close to a certain texture, and of course you might see some problems. But to be honest, even if they just kept it in first person for everything, I don't really think that's the problem, because everything in this game, when it comes to text, when it comes to just props on the level, on the map, they are incredibly detailed. But of course, keep in mind that this is not a first-person shooter, this is still very much an indie game, so you're gonna be going through various locations around the world, and you're gonna be uncovering mysteries and fighting people who are in your way. Now, the first location, which I'm going to talk about, and that's the actually like the starting location somewhat of the game, is going to be Vatican. So, because that's the starting area, I want to kinda show you the gameplay elements from that area the most, not to spoil the rest of the game, but we'll have obviously that footage as well. Throughout the game, you're gonna be moving into different locations around the world, and that location specifically is going to be open for you to explore. That means, for example, in the first major level of the game, that being Vatican, I was able to explore everywhere I wanted. Now, obviously, some locations are going to be hidden behind a key, but even those doors are going to be open either in a mission or if you find a certain secret, and there are a lot of secrets in this game. That means you're gonna be taking photos of stuff, you're gonna be looking at different, historical objects that you're gonna be able to collect and just, inspect on your own. Every single time you take a photograph of something important or you find something which is, going to be that historical object, you're going to be getting adventure points. Now, throughout the world, you're also gonna be collecting books, or, well, those skill points or skill books. By reading that book and spending those adventure points, you're gonna be, well, buffing up Indy, either giving him a second life if you are knocked out, or maybe you want more melee damage, or you want to have a bigger bag so you can fit more consumables that are going to restore your health, your stamina, and somewhat your armor. So some of the major items in this game is going to be the bandage, which is going to restore your HP, and keep in mind there is no passive regeneration, at least for a major part of the level, so you have to heal yourself. Besides that, you have food, which is going to somewhat give you armor in a sense, not fully, but at the same time you're going to, well, feel stronger, your attacks are going to be stronger, and if the actual bar is full, you're gonna be able to have more stamina. That means climbing for longer, running for longer, and being able to carry bodies for longer, because every time you pick up a body to hide it somewhere, that stamina is going to start going down. Of course, you do have items which are going to restore your stamina, which can be used in like the moment, especially if you are running away from enemies. So as you go around the world to reveal secrets and find mysteries, there is going to be people who are going to stop you, either the Nazis or maybe the fascists, well, if you're going to be Vatican in the first level of the game, and you can fight them. That means that Indy has a plethora of weapons which you can find on the ground to hit people with, and that can be anything, actually, frying pans, brooms, whatever you find, because those things are gonna give you, well, a lot more damage to the enemy, and you're gonna be able to initiate stealth attacks from behind. Now do keep in mind, Indy is not capable to do that, at least at the start of the game, by himself, so you must have a certain object. So as I was exploring Vatican, trying to move my way around the enemies, I was just using those different objects which I pick up and just hitting enemies with it and kinda walking by. Now of course, if you want to go hand-to-hand combat, it can also be a lot of fun. One of the things I really enjoy were actually animations when you're fighting enemies. Of course, those animations can glitch out sometimes, maybe the hand goes through the body or something like that, but besides it, it was a very smooth experience, which was a surprising thing to see, because honestly I expected a lot of more bugs in a release this big, but overall it was a very, very smooth experience when it comes to just that, bugs and glitches. I haven't seen that many. And even if they wasn't something that is going to be just happening in front of you. It was mostly some minor things, at least for my own personal experience. Of course, as always, Indy does have his revolver at the side, but do keep in mind, it's not always that you can use your revolver, especially when it comes to areas like the Vatican. Again, in other areas around the world which you're going to be visiting, when it comes to weapons, it becomes a little bit better because, well, you're going to have some action sequences against the Nazis and all of that, but this is still very much an Indiana Jones games that mean, adventure, stealth, and trying to find your way to solve that mystery. When it comes to story, without spoiling too much, I thought that the characters were very interesting. There are of course some things which you are very familiar with if you watched Indiana Jones movies, but of course I'm going to leave that for you to find out. Now when it comes to voice acting, especially for Indy, I think that Troy Baker did a phenomenal job. Not just with the cadence of the voice, but also sort of a mannerisms in that voice, because we all know like Harrison Ford and how he talks and the way he behaves when he talks, like in the way he acts when he talks. He's actually very similar to like, him as a real person. So now when you have Troy Baker going into that role, I was worried like, okay, maybe it's not going to be like fully that and you have the face of Harrison Ford. No, it wasn't like that. I think that Troy Baker did a phenomenal job with that, and throughout the game I was honestly feeling for a couple of like moments that it was really Harrison Ford speaking and giving, voice acting for this game. I think that was phenomenally done.
This is where Forrestal cashed in.
A friend of yours?
A competitor. He was good. He was very, very good.
Senor, nobody has come out of there alive. Please.
But the story was flowing well on that perspective, like I didn't really feel bored, and that's one of the things I personally experienced here. Like the more I played this game, the more I wanted to play it, because every single time you finish a certain mission, especially the main one, something else unlocks, something else is being presented to you, and it kinda makes the story a lot deeper and a lot more interesting, and that's why I just wanted to continue to play. So I had some very long gameplay sessions with this game. Honestly, like it was a lot of fun for me, because I sort of like these games where you can use stealth and just kind of play around with enemies and just kind of try to find your way around. And there are many ways you can access a certain object. You have disguises, of course, which you can use sometimes, which is going to benefit you. Of course, you have officers, which are going to, if they see you, they can discover you, but most of the time it was really good because you're able to kind of sneak by certain areas which are populated with both, civilians and enemies. And I wasn't really using my weapon as well all that much. Most of the time I was just either hand-to-hand fighting or just picking up a certain object or a weapon from the ground and hitting enemies with it. Of course, when it comes to AI, you are gonna be able to have many ways to increase or decrease the difficulty of the game. At the start I played mostly on the normal difficulty because, well, I had to review the game and it's not really a long amount of time which you have to do it. So I started playing with that and I thought that the AI was okay, you know. Sometimes honestly it was kind of funny because they don't see you under certain angles, and you know, you can swear that the person is gonna be able to see you that way. But a lot of time I think it was fair and it was nice. But it can also be punishing, especially if you're caught by more enemies. Fighting one-on-one is okay, even two-on-one, but when you're attacked by 7-8 people at the same time, you're gonna hit the ground really fast. Of course, I also reloaded the game again and I tried on the hardest difficulty. That means turning off everything, increasing the amount of enemies, increasing like the speed at which they see you, and it was kinda tough, so not gonna lie, like if you really want to play this game on the hardest difficulty and you want to utilize your environment to the fullest and the objects and the weapons. Also, when it comes to fighting, I thought that the whip was a lot of fun because you can like yank out the weapon from someone, you can stun them so you go in for an attack, and you can of course use that whip to traverse certain obstacles, to climb, to go down, etc, etc. I also didn't find a lot of riddles like too difficult, to be honest. Like a lot of those were kinda easy to find out, maybe sometimes, and those were kind of optional things you're able to do, like optional mysteries. Those can be a bit harder, but again, nothing which cannot be done. Now, when it comes to graphics in this game, there is a huge discussion happening on the internet right now, especially when it comes to the system requirements. I mean, if you look at these system requirements, this is kinda wild, especially if you look at the recommended section. I mean, not a lot of people have a PC this good, let's face it. But when it comes to my experience with this game, I'm going to talk about the good and the bad. First off, when it comes to the good, one of the things which really impressed me were the animation of faces. Like, I really enjoyed it. Every single time during a cutscene, the animation of those faces was really well done, to the point where an actor was able to fully and completely show their emotions, even if there are certain screams, if there is certain like horror moments, because, well, this is Indiana Jones, you're going to have those horror moments. I mean, if you're not a fan of like spiders and snakes, good luck.
Was hat man Ihnen erzählt?
Ich vertraue nicht auf bloßen Klatsch und Tratsch, Vater. Ich vertraue ihr darauf, wie die Muskeln um ihren Mund zucken, wie sich ihr orbicularis oris zusammenzieht. Ihre himmelschreienden Sünden stehen ihr buchstäblich ins Gesicht geschrieben. Widerwärtige Verbrechen gegen den Heiligen Geist.
But on that side, I think they definitely nailed it. I mean, if you look at some of the other games which are coming out today, especially like AAA titles, which I'm talking about, this is one of the better ones. This is really well done. Of course, when it comes to faces in the open world, I still thought they were very good. I mean, I wasn't really having a problem with it. When it comes to graphics, even on the medium settings which I played, so overall medium, and I'm going to tell you why I played on medium, I really enjoyed how they looked, and especially because every single thing you look at this game, like for example in the museum at the start of the game, I was looking at like small inscriptions on the ground and for example like small names under certain objects, and you were able to completely read those things. If you look at the books, for example, every single book is named. Every single poster, there are a lot of details. Like if you're a huge fan of like the franchise of like Indiana Jones, you're going to have a blast. So many Easter eggs and things you're just able to find by looking at things in, you know, some locations. And there are going to be some very familiar locations. I thought that the light was amazing, especially how you utilize first person in this game. Like for example, when you are going into an underground location, whatever, a tomb, whatever, you pick up a torch from like the wall and it's like not even ignited, and you take that torch next to the fire and it's going to ignite. So those little things which happen, like then you can just throw that torch and pick up something else. Like they really utilize that first person for you to feel like you are truly in Indiana Jones in these locations, exploring and finding out stuff. Now, here is the reason why I played on medium settings. Keep in mind that this was a review version of the game, so there are two things. First off, even though like we had the beta access for like the new driver, so that was okay for the new Nvidia driver, and at the same time do keep in mind that the Nouveau is present in this version, in the review version of the game, because they wanted to make sure no one is going to leak something, but the Nouveau is not going to be a part of the version of the game which you buy, or the one which downloads when you buy it. Now I know I don't have the latest and the best hardware in this PC, but this is still kinda good for its age. So I wasn't able to play above medium. Like I don't know what was happening. Maybe it's connected to like the drivers, maybe something like that. Like the medium frame rate was phenomenal, no stutter, nothing, like nothing was happening, like I was having truly an amazing experience. But as soon as I moved anything to high, even one option, my frame rate went from like 60, 70, whatever, to like 12, 5, 10 frames. It was awful, like truly awful. But of course, because this is a review, I don't really have access to other PCs and I can only vouch for the PC version. So you have to consult other reviewers and probably benchmarks after this game is out to be kinda certain what is going on, because again, this could be a problem just on my end, I cannot verify that. But under medium settings, like the game was still amazing, and to be honest, it was running really well. Like I didn't really have moments in this game where my frame rate was dropping, I had nothing loading in, no shaders were compiling and nothing like that. It was honestly a very smooth experience, and because I did not experience many major bugs or glitches whatsoever, I truly enjoyed it, like I did on that side. But again, every single time I turn on any setting, like on a high, my frame rate is gone. But of course the recommended system for this game is kinda wild at the same time anyway, so we'll see when other viewers, release the game and when you have more information at your disposal. Now when it comes to things I maybe did not like, and maybe it was kinda connected with the difficulty I was playing, and that's when it comes to maybe sometimes AI. So this game is not really punishing if you escape. So for example, I wanted to see what would happen if I aggro the entire Vatican. So I just went into the biggest location I could find in like the Vatican, and I started, teasing people. So they started attacking me. And then all of a suddenly I had 20 people after me. So I climb a certain building, I stay there for a bit, and like the threat passes, so they kind of forget about me. And I went back immediately down there. Nobody recognized me. I thought that maybe it was difficulty. I didn't notice it even on the highest difficulty, but it wasn't too punishing in that sense. I mean, it's okay, I can understand why, because you have to go through those locations a lot, especially in like the main missions of the game, so it wouldn't be enjoyable if the game bricked in that way, like if you couldn't pass a certain object anymore or a certain location because you aggroed some enemies. But I think maybe some more punishment would be good in that. But of course, at the same time, if you stay there and fight against 20 people, you're not going to have a fun time. So for the end, would I recommend this game? I think yes, definitely, because I had a lot of fun in it. And at the same time, as always, like if you're not sure about optimization and what was happening with my own playthrough, you can always wait for benchmarks and other people's opinions and see what their experience was, which is definitely something I recommend. But to be honest, when I was playing on, again, medium, my frame rate was amazing, like it wasn't going down, and the graphics were still really, really good. Might be connected, maybe to like the drivers or something like that, but I, sadly cannot verify that until the game is fully out. So this is everything for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to click that like and subscribe button and tell me down below in the comments what do you think about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. As always, check us out on Twitter and Discord, and huge thanks to my current Patreon supporters. This is LKM signing out. Stay classy everyone, and bye bye.
Give it a rest, would you? No!